Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, folks. It's Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing today? Hopefully well. Hopefully you're full of energy, full of vigor. We got Halloween coming up. Things are improving. Hopefully everyone's safe if you're out in Florida. I know that I've seen a bunch of pictures and storylines, so hopefully everyone's safe out there from the hurricane and all that. And hopefully wherever you are, you've got a smile on your face. And we appreciate you joining us here on the show. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. You can find my work at FG. You can find me on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio on Wednesdays with Jeff Mance. His show, The Elite Sports Show, is Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 Eastern. I'm on those 3 hours on Wednesday. I've also been seeing a lot of work on Sundays, Sunday evening as well on the channel, but that's guest gigs, if you will. Normally on Sirius during the football season, you can find me every Sunday morning on Twitter X at SiriusXM Fantasy, answering your stardom cinema questions. So from 10 to 1 Eastern at SiriusXM Fantasy on Sundays, I answer your questions there. I'm here with you on that Wednesday. I'm not here because I'm with Jeff for 3 hours, but the other 4 days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I am here with you on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. And there's a bunch of ways to follow the show. You hear it every time we're on the show here. Go to FantasyGuru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can find Fantasy Sports Daily in the previous shows. Type in Fantasy Sports Daily into your podcast network, and you can find us there. Take us on the go with you. You can watch and listen live and ask questions live if you're at Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. If you're at YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. And if you're on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site. You can watch on Twitter. You can't ask questions on Twitter. You can try to ask a question on Twitter. They never seem to come through. But if you ask a question on on Facebook or on YouTube, we will see it here. And we usually get to those on the show. On Mondays, I ride solo. On Tuesdays, it's me and Rhamondre Mersal. On Thursdays, it's myself and Tyler Beaker, and that's who we got joining us today. Tyler Beaker will join us in about a half an hour. Oh, I got the wrong sheet up there, folks. Hold on a second. Let me see here. See, I thought I had everything ironed out with the new tech. I guess I didn't. Boy, Ray. Oh, I thought I did. Oh, folks. Where is that? Now the question becomes, where did Ray put the show plan? Oh, Ray. Where are we at? Gosh, here it is. Okay, I think this is it, folks. Let's see. Bear with me for a moment. Again, for those of you that missed it, I got a new computer this week. Everything's in different spots. I thought I had it figured out. Do I have it figured out? I don't have it figured out. Well, there it is. There's October 30th of 2023. Jeez. Ray, what is going on here? I did it. I know I did it. Let me see if I can find it one last time. If I can't find it, we'll just dive in. But bottom line is Tyler Beaker will join us. He'll join us in about a half hour. We'll talk Thursday Night Football with him. We'll also talk about the Steelers situation. What are they doing at quarterback position? What's the deal with Nick Chubb? Is Nick Chubb going to cause problems let me see if I can just say this now as we're talking. Is Nick Chubb going to cause problems for the backfield in Mr. Ford? That is something that could be an issue too. Let me save this here. See if we can get this. Here we go. Saving this. I apologize, folks. Doing a lot of things here in the morning. I got a bunch of questions I'm answering in Discord. Posted my article. For those of you that missed it, the article is available now to be viewed. It's the overarching weekly matchup piece. It's, I think, 12,000 words this week. Takes a lot of time to put together. So hopefully you all enjoy that. It's up there every Thursday morning. I want to thank Rob Povia for his help with the article because he throws it up there for everyone to see, as I'm scrambling here to get everything put together here for the show. All right, I'll try to effort to get this up on the show. If I can't, apologize on that, but doing the best I can here, and apparently it's not good enough because I'm a disaster. What am I going to talk about today? We'll start out talking about some QB news. After we talk QB news, we'll then talk about injuries, and that's the big storyline today. It's injuries, never-ending injuries. When will the injuries end? We just don't know. So we'll check that out here moving forward. Here we go. Can't be spending more time trying to find that. So I apologize today again, 2 times this week. Will Levis is going to return to start for the club today, for this week, the Titans, excuse me. There was a question about Mason Rudolph and all that. It's going to be Will Levis. Will Levis has played very poorly, and there's no way around that fact. He's played very poorly, but he is a strong-armed, athletic, aggressive, take chances downfield kind of quarterback, and he clearly gives this team their best opportunity to win football games. So it's good to see him back on the field. It's good to see him. If this brings a little bit of hope, not a lot of hope, but a little hope to the folks on the team that they'll have an opportunity to potentially show some success this week, and moving forward. It's just been a difficult scenario for him to have success, but he'll try to do his best moving forward. Okay, up next, we got a situation with Aidan O'Connell. This one's very interesting. Aidan O'Connell is going to be the starter for the Raiders, and I don't really know what's going on with the Raiders. I don't know. And, what's going on in the locker room? They still, Davante Adams situation is still unfolding. We don't know what that's going to lead to. The backfield's a mess. The offense is in turmoil. Aidan O'Connell took over last year in the second half down the stretch, and the Raiders were competitive. They won some football games, and, he was effective. I don't think the offense is better with him than it was with Minshew. In fact, you think you can make the argument it might be a little worse. So it's not necessarily something where the team is moving forward as a result of making this move. Jeff Mans and I talked about this in a little more detail. Jeff gave his thoughts yesterday on Sirius XM on the Elite Sports Show. So if you missed that, you can catch it on demand. But basically, I said there what I'm going to say here, and that is that, again, we know with Minshew finds his number one receiver, whether it's Adams or now Myers, and they're getting 10 targets a week. Aidan O'Connell, I don't know. There's also the opportunity for a guy like Trey Tucker to flash probably a little bit more now, not just because of Adams being down, but because he and O'Connell showed a little bit of chemistry late last year. Maybe DJ Turner becomes a guy. The offense is still going to have to revolve around Brock Bowers. There's no way around that. The question really is, what can they establish on the ground? Because Zamir White has been a huge disappointment. Alexander Madison's had a couple of touchdowns, but he hasn't done anything. He's been disappointing really either. It's the offensive game has been disappointing for the Raiders. They need Max Crosby back out there on defense and need their defense giving them a chance to win football games. Aidan O'Connell will do his best to improve the offensive outlook. Again, I don't know if that really occurs. If you have O'Donnell now, because you're in a 2 QB league, you got to do what you got to do. In a super flex scenario, nothing changes. He's still outside the top 20. He's still not someone you really want to start. Maybe with the bye weeks, right? You got no opportunity, but no choice, but to use him. But wouldn't be excited, wouldn't be running the waiver in a one quarterback league, just no interest in Aidan O'Connell. Anthony Richardson is the quarterback of the Colts. Not that this is a surprising thing to say or hear. We talked about that on the show already this week. We talked about it on Elite Sports. The fact is that right now, the opportunity for this offense to win football games is improved with Joe Flacco under center. Joe Flacco is 100 years old, and he's not the future, of course, for this team. The Colts have to find out what they've got in Richardson. I don't think they're expecting to make the playoffs this year. They want to be competitive, grow, and then next year is probably what they're internally thinking in terms of really giving the division, run. So they need to see what Richardson's got. Richardson, by a ton of metrics, is a terrible passer. By the eye test, he's a terrible passer. Can he fling the ball 60 yards downfield? Yeah, he can do that. And we've seen him do that. And there's very likely high possibility he does that again. Does he have the finesse? Can he throw underneath? Can he read defenses? That's completely up in the air. And now we have the question about physically, is he capable of doing the things that are necessary to have success? And the answer is, we just don't know. So they'll do the best they can here, and we'll see what happens. But Richardson is not somebody that I would have drafted as my QB1. I know a lot of people did, including probably some of you. You've obviously made other plans at this point because you've had to. Do you drop Richardson? If you're in a one quarterback league, pending your other quarterback, I don't think you have to hold on to Richardson. If you're in a super flex league, you hold on to Richardson because all the negatives, which were there 4 months ago, are still there now, but the positives are there too. If he can stay healthy, and that's a growing concern, right? If he can stay healthy, the 55 yards on the ground and the rushing touchdown, that could become a common thing with him. And we know how these running quarterbacks score in the fantasy space. So I'm not a Richardson guy. I wasn't a Richardson guy 4 months ago. I've told the story. I have him on one team, and it's because he's my keeper option in the later rounds. That was it. Only because I had no other keeper options in the later rounds. It wasn't because it was the right move to make. It wasn't because I had to have him. That is a super flex league, so I looked at him as my second quarterback. So I got Brock Purdy in that league, I believe. It's like there are uses for Richardson. It's just unfortunate that we're at a spot where a lot of people have to make the decision what to do with him roster-wise because obviously injuries and the bye weeks here in week number 6. Speaking of injuries, let's go through a myriad of those before we talk to Russell Clay. Before we talk to Tyler Buecher. Russell Clay was set to join us on Fridays, as he always does. Not going to be available tomorrow, but he'll return next Friday. We'll talk to Tyler Buecher here in about 20 minutes. Joe Mixon, and Jeff Manns and I talked about this on the Elite Sport show yesterday. Joe Mixon was supposed to be okay 3 weeks ago. We had an ankle issue. It's not going to be a big deal. Okay. We think he can play. Okay. 2 weeks ago, all right, we're feeling pretty good about this. Didn't play. A week ago, we're feeling pretty good. He's going to play. Right. Didn't play. We're still hearing he's week to week. Now, you can have an ankle injury, and we know this because we see it all the time. Ankle injuries can take 4 to 6 weeks. The problem with this scenario is that the Texans, at no point in time have they said he should have gone on the injured list. At no point in time did they lead us to believe it was going to be a month-long absence. It sounded like it was a minor ankle issue. Maybe he'd miss a game, but okay. It's not even clear if he's going to play this week. So we've got the opportunity. Dameon Pierce was back at practice yesterday, so he could be active. If Pierce is active, it's very likely he surpasses Cam Akers in the pecking order. Now, we saw last week Dario Ogunbowale get 20 touches. So would I be rushing to play Dameon Pierce this week? Absolutely not. Would I want to play if Pierce is active? If Pierce, Akers, and Ogunbowale are active, don't play any of these running backs. Just how is it going to play out? Because I would have to say Dario Ogunbowale would be the guy because he's playing third downs and he's catching passes. But that is a messy scenario. And again, you don't want to be involved in that scenario. If you got any of those 3 guys and they're all active this weekend, don't play any of them. We need Joe Mixon back. Brian DeBall said that Devin Singletary is trending in the right direction. Hopefully you didn't run to the waiver wire and spend 25% of your budget to add Tyrone Tracy. Hopefully if you had Singletary, you had Tracy, you plugged him in, you got your 100 yards, you're fine. But for those of you that don't have Singletary, that added Tracy at the draft or that picked him up on the waiver wire this week, it's looking like he's a dicey, if not just no-go play this week. Because if Singletary is back, and this is a weird thing, I've seen this kind of floating around like, oh, Tracy's taking over the backfield. Tracy's not taking over the backfield from Singletary. It's not happening, at least right now, right? If Singletary is healthy, Singletary's going to be the lead back. Now, maybe Tracy goes from, playing 4 offensive snaps to getting 8 touches. Okay, maybe. That could happen. I could totally see that happen. He looked really good last week. And that's not surprising. He's a very solid prospect at the running back position. Is he taking over the backfield? Is Singletary going to return and have 4 touches and there's going to be 14 for Tracy? Not unless Singletary's hurt. Not unless he's really not able to play through that groin injury. So you might have added Tracy this week, but may not have the opportunity to play him this weekend is the point. If you added him, don't go out and drop him because Ray's down. No, don't do that. Remember, Singletary is dealing with a groin injury, and it's possible he goes out there on a second carry this weekend if he plays, and we don't know for certain he's going to play. On a second carry, he might strain his groin again. So this could be a scenario where, heck, Singletary could end up missing a month of time. We just don't know. So don't drop Tracy. But if you added him, make sure you have other options to turn to this weekend because Singletary is trending toward playing this weekend, and if he does, that complicates things for Tracy. James Cook, foot-toe issue, something going on down there. Didn't practice yesterday on Wednesday. And just as a reminder, I answer questions all the time in the Discord over at fantasyguru.com. And I was answering a bunch of them this morning for those of you wondering, well, I didn't see anything. I'll post it after the show. There's a lot of questions about trades and waiver moves. Okay. Sending questions in on Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning about start 'em, sit 'em, if it doesn't include the Niners or the Seahawks. Because right now we don't have any idea if James Cook is going to miss the game this weekend, if he's going to be limited this weekend, if this isn't going to matter at all this weekend. We don't have, it could be any of those 3 things with a draft. Were we talking 20 touches, 10 touches, or no touches? It's a drastic change for James Cook. I had someone ask me a question about Ty Johnson this morning. It's like, well, Ty Johnson, if Cook plays, he's getting 3 touches. He's useless. If James Cook is out, then we probably got a shared backfield with Davis and Johnson. So understand when you're asking these questions, which I get, understand when you're asking these questions that there's a problem in terms of the timing of the week. We got to understand that. Right now, James Cook didn't practice yesterday. He might be limited today. He might be limited tomorrow. We might hear he's totally fine. No reason to panic. If Ray Davis is on the waiver wire in your league, which he shouldn't be. If you own James Cook, say it with me, you should own Ray Davis. If Ray Davis is on the waiver wire in your league, add him now. The Bills need to recommit to the running game. I think that, at this point in time, I'm expecting Cook to play, but if he doesn't, we could see 15 touches out of Ray Davis, out of this backfield. So add Ray Davis. We'll continue to assess this situation through the week. But another one of these scenarios where, some years you add the handcuff and it works. Some years you add the handcuff and it doesn't work. And that's why there's always the debate in the fantasy community, do you cuff guys or not? Because there are numerous instances and times where it doesn't work. And you get a guy, I've said all along, I like Isaac Rendo as a long-term play. Well, Jordan Mason hasn't gotten hurt and Jordan Mason's killing it. In that scenario, if you'd grab George Mason instead of Isaac Rendo, you're winning. If you took my Isaac Rendo advice, you're losing. Now, let's play this out. Let's say Jordan Mason tweaks his ankle this weekend. Let's say we get an update that Christian McCaffrey is still a month away. Here comes Isaac Rendo. So a lot of the backup running back thing is pure timing, and that's the point. When you're talking about it being pure timing, who times the market and gets rich? No one. You can't do it. Don't try to do it in fantasy football. Handcuff your guys. I get so frustrated because every single day, and I'm not exaggerating, every single day I get questions about, do I want Tracy or Corum? Do I want Corum or McLaughlin? Do I want McLaughlin or Tracy? Every single day. And the question is, handcuff your guys. Be involved in the running back situations that are put positive. Be involved with the 49ers. Get those guys, right? We used to say be involved with the Browns. The Browns' offensive line and their scheme is a mess right now. You don't really want to be involved. Like, people are getting excited about Nick Chubb, and we'll talk to Tyler Beaker about Nick Chubb here in a few minutes. Number one, we don't know what Nick Chubb physically is going to be able to bring to the field. And number two, they're not running the ball effectively at all. Their offense is in just disarray at the moment, the Browns. So, as many times as I say, don't play the game of rolling through running backs, no one listens, and it's really frustrating. Everyone running to the waiver wire and spending 25% of their budget to add Tank Bigsby. If you had Travis Etienne, why don't you have Tank Bigsby on your team? Now, sometimes it's not clear. Alvin Kamara's got an issue. He missed practice yesterday, and some people are nervous whether he's going to play this week. And it's like, I fully expect Kamara to play this week. At the same time, this is something that he's dealing with. And as a result, people are saying, well, I got to go add Jamal Williams, which you should if you have Alvin Kamara. Now, the problem with this, again, is timing. My read of the situation with the Saints is the following. Kamara's out, let's assume. And I'm not saying he's going to be out this week or any week, but he does miss games. It's been his track record. It's likely to be a shared backfield with Williams and Kendry Miller. And it's likely to be Miller on third downs and Jamal Williams on first and second down. Very basic, very simple. It's more complicated than that, but that's okay. That's kind of where we're at. So what do you do? Right now, if you're needing to add a player for this week because you have Kamara, you got to add Jamal Williams because Kendry Miller still hasn't been active yet. Is Kendry Miller a better all-around back than Jamal Williams? I believe the answer is yes. Is he a better pass-catching back than Jamal Williams? I believe the answer is yes. Can he get out of his coach's doghouse and can he get healthy? I don't know. So right now, the better add, if you have Kamara, is Jamal Williams. As soon as Kendry Miller is healthy enough to be active and hopefully out of his doghouse, I think he supersedes Jamal Williams. So it can be difficult to handcuff your running back because sometimes it's not clear who the number one backup is. Sometimes when you get this situation, it might still be Miller leading the way, but both guys might be touching it 10, 12 times, right? We see this happen a lot across the league, kind of what the Jaguars did last week with Bigsby and Etienne. So it's not always clear-cut or simple. But in certain ones of these situations, it's pretty clear-cut and simple. If you had Devin Singletary, you should have had Tracy. If you have James Cook, you should have Ray Davis. Make it happen. Now, here's another situation. Gus Edwards got an ankle issue, and he didn't practice on Wednesday. That's concerning because they had a bye. He's already become very minimized in this offense. And, given his age and given his lack of explosiveness and dynamism, it's one of the reasons why we all like Kamani Vidal so much at fantasyguru.com this year. We're trending toward, J.K. Dobbins being the one and Vidal being the two. I think we're trending toward that already, and the season's not even half over. And remember, a lot of people are trying to figure out J.K. Dobbins, who's been so much better than expectations, right? And I've said this repeatedly, and I'm not changing my opinion at this point. J.K. Dobbins is a significant health risk. Significant. Look at his track record over and over again. Big injuries. And even if he's not an injury risk, even if you don't believe that, it's football, Ray, everyone gets hurt. As a player with so many injuries, you have to be concerned about workload and how his burst looks as the season wears on. That's just logical. And now we have the ankle issue to Edwards, who's already been minimized to the point where he's not even really touching the ball. Kamani Vidal, who's probably on the waiver wire in 90% of leagues. Probably the only people that have Kamani Vidal are those that you're listening or following us over at fantasyguru.com, because no one else he wasn't even being drafted. I'm not saying Vidal will be active this week. Vidal may not be a thing until week 13, but he's going to be a thing at some point. So if I had Dobbins, I'd be very, very interested right now today, if you haven't done it already, to getting Kamani Vidal on your roster. Zamir White, this one is super disappointing. We talked earlier about the Raiders and their switch to O'Connell. Zamir White has stunk. And in multiple of my own leagues, so don't feel bad like, oh, Ray, you said to do this and my team sucked. In multiple of my own leagues, Zamir White was my running back too. It's the way I drafted. I was aggressive. In one league I took Kelsey, in the other league I took Josh Allen, and that kind of thing. I was more aggressive. I'm in 14-team leagues, so it gets thin. I thought to myself, look, I'm really comfortable with Zamir White being running back 25 this year. Cool. And I could see him being running back 17, right? I could see that. They have not run the ball effectively. He has not done anything. He's got a groin injury. He didn't practice yesterday, didn't play last week. I mean, obviously at this point in time, Madison's owned. So, the real question becomes when Zamir White is healthy, what does the backfield look like? And the question is answered with the following statement: I don't know. And that's concerning. I have to think at this point they have decided for whatever reason, and I don't know why, because at no point in Madison's career have I ever heard anyone suggest he's a goal line back. He's become the goal line back of the Raiders. So that must be more of a function of their not having confidence in Zamir White. If Zamir White's getting 14 touches a week, we can use him. Maybe it's a flex option. We can use him. But the problem is if it's all between the 20s, he's getting 12 points. Like if he's not being utilized near the goal line, he's going to run for 80 yards and catch 2 passes. Whoopie-doo, he gets a 10-point game. And here comes Madison, who has 32 yards of offense and gets in the end zone on a 1-yard run, and they both score 9 or 10 points. So I think it's just messy. And the early season prognostication of Zamir White being a thing every week has been horribly wrong. You've obviously made other arrangements at this point. I will tell you this, Amir Abdullah, don't go running to the waiver wire because he had a big game last weekend. Amir Abdullah's been around forever, and he's a satellite back. Okay, just the way it is. He always has a game or two where he pops. He's going to recede into the woodwork unless Zamir White continues to miss time. Then he'll get some touches, but he's just not a usable piece. I wouldn't be looking at him at all. Rhamondre Stevenson's got a calf issue. He didn't practice yesterday. Stevenson has said that he should be okay. Players say that a lot, and it's not true. But in this instance, I haven't heard or seen much from the Patriots side that suggests that we're talking about a significant issue with Stevenson. So I think it's very reasonable to think that he'll be active this weekend. Obviously, today and tomorrow will be very important with Stevenson. Gibson, who was named the starter last week and then was proceeded to be outsnapped and outtouched by Rhamondre Stevenson, as we kind of thought it would go. Stevenson's still the guy. Gibson would step up, theoretically. I guess Hasty might be involved too as a support piece there. The big news there is going to Drake May, and we'll see how that opens up the offense. It shouldn't be worse than it was with Jacoby Brissett. I don't know how much better it could be in a guy's first NFL start. Does he have more talent? Is he more aggressive? Is he more likely to take shots? And can he do things with his legs when the pocket breaks down? Yes, Drake May can do those things. Is the offense one that we should now be looking at him putting up 375 yards and 28 points every week? No. So they're still going to need Rhamondre Stevenson and the running game to help things. It's just the offensive line and the scheme and the whole thing. It's just messy right now for the Patriots. Zach Moss didn't practice yesterday. The expectation at this point of the week, as it's 9:30 on a Thursday morning, the expectation is Zach Moss will play this weekend. So we'll have to get, again, more information there. He is the lead back. I said it yesterday on the Elite Sports Show. I think he's the 60-40 lead over Chase Brown. You can all claim for Chase Brown, clamor for Chase Brown is the right way to say it. Zach Moss is the lead running back right now of the Bengals. And unless the injury precludes him from continuing in that role, I don't see a shift coming anytime soon. Brown is fantastic as a support piece. He is a flex option in bye weeks. He's a flex option when you've got injuries. He is not taking over the backfield unless Zach Moss is hurt. That's my read of that situation. Jonathan Taylor didn't practice yesterday. He's hopeful that at some point this week he'll practice with the ankle issue he's dealing with. We've heard a lot of things here. I think it's 50-50 at best that he plays this week. Now, the real problem for the Colts is, do they push Taylor to get back out there? Because Trey Sermon's got a collarbone issue. We don't know how serious the collarbone issue with Sermon. We need a lot more information there, but he didn't practice yesterday. If Sermon's down and it's up to Tyler Goodson, so for those of you at the dead roster spot, you're carrying 2 kickers, you're carrying 2 tight ends, you're carrying 2 defense, you're carrying 3 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league. Tyler Goodson, if you want to scoop him, now he might get 1 touch this week, right? Maybe absolutely nothing. He may not get a touch this weekend. Sermon and Taylor both might play. But for those of you looking to be smart and proactive and what the hell, I got a spot, Tyler Goodson, he's the name. And there is a path to him leading this backfield in touches this week. It's narrow at this point in time, but when we get more information today, you get the point. Speaking of the wide receivers, this one's, Malik Nabers is doing better. He still wasn't practicing yesterday with the team. Remember, he had the head injury. A lot of people forget that head injuries are pretty serious. We're so used to it that we don't forget that they're serious. That's not fair. We're surprised when a guy isn't activated a week later. And I've said this a lot. A guy in baseball, a guy in football get a concussion, and they're out 2, 3, 4 weeks. In football, they get a concussion, they play 6 days later. So I've never understood that. I think if we're being honest about this, it doesn't make any sense. Concussion's a concussion. Some guys react this way and some guys react that way. Malik Nabers not practicing yesterday is a legit concern for his availability this week. We'll hopefully get good news today and everything will be fine because Nabers is seeing double-digit targets. He's the offense for the Giants. We all know that. But right now, it's not clear where he's going to play this week. Guy that's not going to play this week or for the next 4 weeks is Michael Pittman, who has a back issue. All of a sudden, Pittman went from, he's got a little bit of a back issue to, boom, full score panic here. Really escalated quickly. Who do we pivot to? Well, obviously Josh Downs is the lead guy there. The problem is with Anthony Richardson under center that it's going to be the 4 targets to Alec Pierce. Let's hope he catches one of them for 60-yard touchdown. The player that we all know that we need to be looking at, if we're saying, Ray, who replaces Pittman? Well, no one can replace Pittman. I don't think that's fair. But he's likely to miss multiple weeks and all that here. So we're looking at Josh Downs as the 1. I'd say Adonai Mitchell. Now, again, you might see Alec Pierce as the 2, but Alec Pierce is just running go routes, right? He's just an outside threat. He's not going to catch more than 3, maybe 4 passes in the best case scenario, right? So I would say that Downs is the 1. Adonai Mitchell is the one I'd be most intrigued in. It's always possible that Ashton Doolin becomes part of this offense too. They're going to need him if Pittman is out a long period of time. Remember, by the way, Josh Downs, before we get too excited there, he's got a toe injury. He didn't practice yesterday. So we need more information there. It could end up being a scenario where both Pittman and Downs are both out. And then if those 2 guys are both out and it's Anthony Richardson under center, and it's like, oh boy, like we're not, then Doolin would obviously be involved a ton. They'd probably use 2 wide receiver running tight end sets all the time. They might even do 3 wide tight end sets. I don't know. Could get really, really messy very quickly. So we need a lot more information on Downs. But Mitchell would be the pivot for me if we're talking for let's find somebody waiver wire with this team that might be a replacement. The Texans lost Nico Collins. He went to the injury reserve. You probably all heard that now. Tank Dell to the moon this week. We'll see. Hutchinson's obviously someone that's now in play to be a roster addition because everyone moves up the slot. Diggs is the 1. Dell's the 2. Hutchinson's probably the 3 in this offense. So Hutchinson's an intriguing pickup. You don't want to be starting him this weekend or anything like that, but he's an intriguing pickup for those of you looking to make a move there. Davante Adams is not playing this week. When is he going to play? How injured is he, and when is he going to play? Khalil Shakir didn't practice yesterday. He's got that ankle issue. We're hopefully plays this week, but that's, again, another scenario to monitor with the Bills. We'll get more information here the next couple of days. Rashid Shaheed has a hip issue. Obviously, the change there to Rattler under center, losing Carr, dings Shaheed. The hip issue, obviously, is somewhat of a concern with Shaheed. Haven't seen a lot of people expressing overt concern with Shaheed not being available this weekend, but we need more information. This is another scenario where we might be without a guy this weekend. And then finally, before we talk to Tyler Buecher, David Njoku practiced last week, didn't practice last week, then played. His ankle was okay, but then he tweaked his knee, didn't participate in practice yesterday because of the knee. So this is, the Browns are just a mess. And I think it's emblematic of what's going on with David Njoku. It's only been 5 weeks. Obviously, this is week 6. But we're talking about the first third of the season just in the toilet with David Njoku, which is extremely disappointing. We'll have to follow the issue with his knee and see if he's even able to play this weekend. At this point in time, we just don't know if that's even going to happen. Okay. By the way, one final note before we bring in Tyler Buecher. You forgot. Don't forget. It's still going on right now, and I'm hearing that the BOGO deal, buy one get one free, is ending at the end of this week. That's what I've heard. So I don't know, but that's what I've heard. What is that deal? You can see it on the screen there. You buy DFS football, you get wagering football for free. You buy wagering football, you get DFS football for free. It's 2-for-1 deal. Buy one get one free. The BOGO deal. So head over to fantasyguru.com right now. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get the DFS and betting for one price. Get both of them. And our next guest, Tyler Buecher, is involved in all of that. He kind of spearheads the wagering aspect of things at fantasyguru.com. He leads the live stream on Friday nights, talking all about the DFS and the week ahead. So he'd be somebody you'd see an awful lot. You see him here every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. You'd see him a lot more than that if you got those two packages over at FG. So let's bring him in right now. Tyler Buecher of fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing great, Ray. Excited for tonight's Thursday night football matchup. Should be a fun one.
It should be. It involves my Niners. It's a game where, it's not a Thursday night game where you go, it's a game. Hey, let's actually watch this game. This is good. There's players involved in the fantasy space. It might be a good game, all that kind of stuff. We'll talk to Tyler in a few minutes about all of that game. We'll get his bet of the night as well. But I want to ask you a few overarching questions before we dive in there, Tyler. And the first one is the Steelers quarterback situation. On the rankings at FG this week, Jeff Mans made the decision that he removed Fields and put Russell Wilson in. And we've seen reports out of Pittsburgh. They haven't made a switch at the quarterback position. We're still expecting Fields to start, but that they've lost a couple of games. And what's your read of that situation there in Pittsburgh this week and moving forward? How are you handling Fields and Wilson at this point?
We will get news prior to Sunday, so it's not like we need to actually make the guess prior to setting lineups and figuring that part out. I'll just say to start, Justin Fields has not been a fantasy savant. He hasn't been playing the 2023 level where he was breaking slates and being a must play. He has one game over 20 points. If we exclude that, he's averaging 14.7 fantasy points per game. That's meh level in a single quarterback format. Have people been starting him in single QB leagues? If so, why? I don't.
Well, maybe they had Anthony Richardson, or they've had injuries, something like that, probably. Or maybe they had Patrick Mahomes because he's terrible.
Well, I don't know if swapping to Russell Wilson will suddenly make the Steelers unit like a top 10 offense or anything. And this matchup doesn't really stand out from a lens of them needing to pass against the Raiders. With Christian Wilkins now on IR, I think they should run heavily with Najee Harris against the Raiders. So I'm not really eager to plug in Russell Wilson if he is the starter this week. I'd rather take a wait and see approach. I know not every league offers that luxury. So if you need to pick up somebody, look, Fields really hasn't blown away this coaching staff. There's been some hits in terms of on a play-to-play basis, but it's not all hits. It's not consistent. And for that reason, I think they're confidently going back to Russell Wilson as seeing what can we get out of this guy instead. I don't really have a strong takes. Pittsburgh's been a unit where we've just kind of faded their pass catchers for the entire season so far. Right. That's worked out, aside from George Pickens blowing up the Colts defense one week. Mm-hmm. I think that we can continue to do so.
What about the situation, Tyler, with the Browns? We've got Nick Chubb coming back. We all know who Nick Chubb was. We have no idea who Nick Chubb is, and we don't have any idea what his role is going to be. We don't have any idea where the offense is going to be because it's been a mess. What do you think about Chubb moving forward? He could be active this weekend. I don't know if we're expecting it. He could. What are we thinking about Chubb directly? And if he is back, how does that impact Jerome Ford in that backfield?
Yeah, you mentioned the difference between what Chubb was and what Chubb is right now. For those that may not remember, he tore his ACL, he tore his MCL, and he tore his meniscus. Required multiple surgeries this offseason. I have zero interest in investing here. I'll be honest with you guys. Perhaps it bites me. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to hit 100% on every single selection that I take, but I know when to roll the dice and when not to. And this is not a situation that I want to involve myself now that we're in the heat of bye weeks, and he will take up a valuable roster spot. The Browns' offensive line remains a mess due to injury. Deshaun Watson yet to throw 200 yards in a game. That's an abject disaster. And I really feel like Chubb's explosiveness will just be sapped returning from that gruesome injury. So what it really tells me is I think now is fine time to get off the Ford bandwagon, Jerome Ford. as we're probably going to start looking at a timeshare of sorts. Ford has been efficient, but he hasn't really blown up in terms of fantasy. And if he's to lose volume, it just makes a gross situation even more murky. And I'll be honest, I don't think we really need to go here.
What about the scenario with the Panthers in their backfield, Tyler? Again, it's another one of those. I've heard a lot of people heard Jonathan Brooks starting the year on the IR, and they seemingly assumed he's back in week 5 because he was eligible in week 5. Everyone seemed to think he was back. Just because you're on the IR does not mean you're back in 4 weeks. And I think a lot of people got burned by that. Because now I'm hearing a lot of the questions, well, what do I do with Jonathan Brooks? Do I keep Jonathan Brooks? There's other people saying, well, do I add Jonathan Brooks? Some people think he's going to take the backfield over. Some people don't give a damn. Where are you at? I think if you have Hubbard, I think it's really smart to have Brooks. But talk us through this scenario because there's a variety of viewpoints that are being shared right now on Jonathan Brooks.
I think you nailed it. Where if you're a Hubbard owner, I would be doing whatever I could to secure Brooks, trying to trade for him. He's just an elite talent in terms of when healthy, what he can provide to this offense. And this is a different offense with Andy Dalton under center. We are no longer looking at a lot of 3-and-outs, very short-lived drives. Hubbard, I got to give him a ton of credit. He's looked phenomenal in terms of flashing in multiple efficiency metrics. Looks really, really great right now. What I would do is try to create a backfield duo here where sure it's a handcuff. I don't know how to phrase this one specifically, but I would try to get both these backs. I think I view it as we're seeing Hubbard play extremely well right now. And if we were to plug Brooks into that same exact role, that same type of volume, we could see even better fantasy production. I've been bullish on Brooks this entire offseason. He's been a player I've been holding on multiple benches, taking that space, but I'm willing to accept that, knowing that once Brooks hits, I'm not trying to win September. I'm not trying to win October. I'm trying to win November and December. And for that reason, I think Brooks is a super great stash, great player to pick up off waivers where available. I don't know, maybe in 10-team leagues or fewer, he might be out there. Mm-hmm. But in 12 or larger, I would try to trade for him if I was the Hubbard owner.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Again, he joins us every Thursday. I almost forgot what day it was. At about 9:30 Pacific time, 12:30 East Coast time. Let's talk about the quarterbacks in Thursday Night Football. We've got the Seahawks and the Niners going at each other tonight, division rivals. And, here we got Geno Smith, who's killing it, leading the league in passing yards. He's up at the top of completions and attempts, and he's got a 70-plus completion percentage. He's playing really well. Not giving you touchdowns, but he's playing well. Then you got Brock Purdy, who's kind of, Brock Purdy, a lot of the metrics, he's downfield. He leads the league in 20-yard completions, 40-yard plays, this kind of stuff. But he's also not really producing touchdowns. Talk to us about these two quarterbacks, what you've seen to this point, and if you had to make a decision tonight between one of the two, which guy would you go with?
Great question to start off. Let's just start with Geno right now. The Seahawks have been extremely pass-heavy over these last 4 weeks. We were predicting Ryan Grubb to be an aggressive play caller in terms of throwing the ball a lot. And like you said, Geno leading the lead, multiple passing stats. They're plus 9.8% pass rate over expectation. So we got baseline passing productivity. They are 10 percentage points above that. For context, last year's league leader in this stat was the Chiefs with 6.9. So they are well above that. Yeah. This is a team throwing aggressively. That's great. We love that. The problem is 49ers are a bit of a run funnel defense. They're top 10 in defensive pass success rate allowed, but they're bottom 10 in rush success rate allowed. So I think we could see a shift to the ground game here from Seattle. It would go against what they've been doing to date, but it makes sense. The Niners are top 10 in pressure rate. They're top 5 in sack rate. They hold opposing passers to less than a 63% completion rate, but they are top 10 in yards per attempt, 7.4 and pass touchdown rate. So maybe we see some regression hit for Geno in terms of the touchdown department there. No Hufanga. I think that also really helps. Looking at Purdy, this team is, I think they're 29th right now in red zone to touchdown conversion rate. Yeah. They get down there and they're just not punching it in. This looks like a great spot for the run game to get going here in terms of finishing drives against the Seattle front that's missing their top 3 edge rushers. One of their defensive tackles, Byron Murphy, one of their early draft picks this year, a starting corner in Tariq Woolen, and safety Julian Love is questionable, so we're not sure about his status at this time. It's just a beat-up unit, and I think that playing on a short week, we could see the Niners really kind of execute long, sustained drives where they just punch these guys time and time and time over. This team is number 1 in both plays per drive and seconds per drive. They take up a lot of clock, and they have these long, methodical drives that again, they just wear the defense down. So I'm not sure we're going to see a ceiling outing from Purdy. I think we'll see an efficient outing from Purdy, but I do question the ceiling. I think it's probably more of a Jordan Mason game. Okay. So to answer the question, Geno versus Purdy, I'm going to go Geno.
Okay. Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. The question of JSN or Tyler Lockett in the preseason, most people went JSN on draft day. And to date, it's been the better decision. But, there's still moments of Lockett, and there's still moments where JSN is not the forefront of this offense. Talk us through those two guys and specifically your expectations, because you do a lot of work, obviously, with the wide receivers for fantasyguru.com. What's your expectation tonight for Lockett and JSN?
Over the last 4 weeks, JSN ties DK Metcalf for the team lead in target share. These two are both like neck and neck there. I think it's really going to set up for a better funnel towards the slot where JSN runs the majority of his routes rather than the perimeter. Niners are really, really great in terms of limiting productivity to the outside. They're kind of middling in terms of defense to the slot. On the outside, though, they've got great corners in Charvarius Ward. I think he's a quality cornerback. They're giving up the 5th fewest receptions to outside wideouts. They're bottom 5 in fantasy points per game to outside wideouts. I'm kind of hesitant to play Lockett in any kind of format. I don't think we need to. They should be trailing, so they should be throwing. So you can make that counter argument, but I just view Lockett more as a floor play. He has 4 catches in 4 or 5 games. So I want to at least shout him out for that, but I'm not flexing him. I'd rather play JSN here, who I think there's some catch and run opportunity against a corner like Diomedor Lenore, an interesting name to say. Hopefully I got that right. But I think JSN would be the player that I would like to pursue over Lockett.
Tyler, I think the Elite Mafia has got a lot of shares of DK Metcalf. And everyone, if you have him, you're playing him, so it's not, But I hear you say, oh, that doesn't sound like the greatest matchup this week for DK. So what, last week didn't produce. And I've said this myself. It's like you're throwing the ball 40 times a game. Why are not 12 of them going to DK Metcalf? I don't get it. But talk us through Metcalf, where he's at this point, and what you're seeing from him tonight.
I've got that same argument with the Bengals and why they're not littering Jamar Chase with double-digit targets every single week. Totally agree with you. Yeah. Let's just say it's been a tough matchup for opposing wideouts on the outside against this Niners team. I just everything I said to Lockett applies to Metcalf. Mm-hmm. Isaac Yiadom, he's kind of more of a journeyman corner than anything for the Niners, who's starting on the other side of Ward. I think he would be the one they would try to target with Metcalf. 2 matchups last year, 3 for 32 and 2 catches, 52 yards and a touchdown for Metcalf. Not spectacular numbers. That's 14 total targets in those 2 games combined. When I look at what Justin Jefferson did against this team, he had a 97-yard touchdown that was making its rounds around SportsCenter and viral clips on Twitter. But outside that play, he was held to 36 yards. There's a chance that we see a quiet game from Metcalf, and that's kind of what I'm expecting. If I'm playing DFS Showdown, I think you can fade him. In redraft circles, I think that's a roll of the dice that really depends what else you got. I know you and Jeff are adamant, start DK no matter what, and I'm always matchup based. I will always say that because I think there are times when at the extremes we should be weighing things plus or minus. This to me isn't the extreme. This would be a situation where I would still play Metcalf and redraft. I would just probably be more aggressive with my flex decisions, knowing I may have some ground to make up.
I think and that's Tyler Beaker at fantasyguru.com. That's a great way to say it too, Tyler, because we get the questions all the time in Discord over at Fantasy Guru. A or B for flex. It's like, well, okay, but tell me what the matchup. Are you looking at a deficit this week with your opponent? Do you have a bunch of bangers in your lineup? It really matters because it's not as easy as which guy do we project to score 12 and 10 points? Okay, but maybe you need 18 points, or maybe you only need 8 points, and maybe that changes the answer. So I liked how you phrased it there. What about we look at the number 1 guy on the other side, Deebo Samuel, who should be getting 10 touches a week. So obviously 3 or 4 of those might be out of the backfield, right? But since he's come back from the injury, it's a couple of games now, he hasn't done anything. And, I think it's the same thing with Deebo Samuel. He's such a vital piece of this offense, and he does get work out of the backfield, and there is no CMC. I think we fire Deebo up regardless, but is tonight going to be a night where we get a good return on that investment?
Yeah, I mentioned the Niners playing really slow. They also skew to the run, so we don't see a ton of pass volume here for these guys. And they're just littered with talent in terms of number of players for who could see the targets in any given week. Last week, I expected it to be a Deebo week. It was against a Cardinals team that traditionally plays too high. They instead swapped to a single high rate at one of their highest rates all season. And as such, It was not a Deebo week. It was instead an Ayuk week. So the coverage schemes matter. And I think this week we'll probably see more single high if Julian Love were to sit out, bringing down another safety into the box and probably Rayshon Jenkins, and to have another guy just floating up top. They're also missing a starting corner. So I do think there's a chance that we see like a decent outing from Deebo, but I question his health. I think he had a calf injury a few weeks back, and his his yards after the catch and his separation marks are just not where they should be for a player of his talent and what we've historically seen from him. So I'm kind of just lukewarm on him. I'm not excited about playing Deebo, but I do think like I think the game total is like 48 or 49. You're playing Deebo in redraft. Right. It's just, I'll be honest, I think it's going to be a Jordan Mason game. I think we're going to see them run the ball quite a bit. I think we're going to see minimal targets in terms of what Ayuk and Kittle and Deebo combined for. So you're just going to have to hope they get the ability to like spring one for a big gain. Yeah, for a touchdown or a huge yak play.
So Kittle's in the 4-catch, 50-yard zone kind of game this week. You're not anticipating having one of those splash huge efforts from him tonight?
He might. He has a better target share and a better yards per route run rate against single high than two high, and I'm expecting Seattle to be more single high tonight. So I'm fine with Kittle. I think he's a fine top 6 tight end play in terms of redraft, and a player that I'm fine throwing into DFS showdown lineups too.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. You've heard that a lot. You can also follow him on Twitter, X at Tyler Beaker. For those of you that don't know how to spell his name, we'll put it on the screen there. There you go. Buecher. You can find him, Tyler Beaker, on Twitter X. Every week you come on the show here and we talk about the players and kind of what you're expecting here. And then you always have a bet. What's the bet? What do you got this week? What are we going to help the listeners for free win some money tonight?
Yeah, I feel bad about last week's. It was Bucks money line, and they took them to overtime. The Falcons won the coin toss, drove down for the touchdown. Bucks never got a chance. Feel bad about that one. Let's make some money back for you guys here. We're going to hit tackles and assists. That's a market that I've done really well over the last 2 years. This year, currently 19-8 right now in terms of win-loss. So we're running hot. And we're going to hit an under. Devondre Campbell, linebacker for the 49ers, under 7.5 tackles and assists. A few reasons for this. The Seahawks are allowing the fewest tackle opportunities. The Seahawks are allowing the fewest tackle opportunities to opposing linebackers this year. Campbell has gone under this number of 7.5 in 4 or 5 games. The only loss was last week against the Cardinals, where we saw that really lengthy James Conner run-heavy drive to close it out in the fourth quarter. He picked up 3 of 9 tackles on that final drive alone, so he would have gone under in 5 of 5 if that drive hadn't existed. There's only been 2 linebackers that have cleared 8 or more tackles and assists against the Seahawks this season. One being tackle magnet Alex Singleton, unfortunately injured. It's just a rarity. I'm expecting, if anything, it to be Fred Warner, the guy that picks up most of these tackles. And I mentioned the Niners are just so volume heavy in terms of how they play that opponents against them, they're averaging the second fewest plays per game. So there's just not a lot of meat on the bone for Campbell to pick up tackle and assist opportunities, period. I'm expecting the game script to flow where the Niners are out and ahead. They're running the ball. Jordan Mason's picking up a lot of carries. They're eating clock. They're just leaving limited drives and opportunities and plays for the Seattle side. So I like the under on Devondre Campbell, 7.5 tackles and assists. You can get that pretty much everywhere right now. That minus 115 or so. I'd play that all the way to minus 120.
Let me ask you a question. I think everyone listening clearly can tell you know what the hell you're talking about. That's why we have you here. That's why you're at the site and everything like that. A lot of people were hoping you to do something with Deebo Samuel or DK Metcalf or Kenneth Walker. If they're hearing that and they don't really know, like they don't maybe not even know the name you mentioned. What's your advice generally on people betting? Do you just follow the experts? Do you know the question I'm asking here? Because it's like, I always tell people too when I'm doing the baseball stuff, it's like, this is what I'm telling you to do. If you're going to do something different, that's fine. If you don't feel good about it, don't do it. Don't change what I did and don't parlay it on. Do it or don't do it. But a lot of people, I've also said, look, it's okay if you don't bet everything. If you don't feel it, if you don't know it, if you think I'm wrong, like what's your advice to somebody if they hear you breaking this all down and they love what you're saying, but they're like, I don't look at defensive players. I've never bet one of those before. Should they bet it?
Well, I think that's why track record and being transparent with wins, losses, unit count is very important as a betting industry. I think there's a lot of people that manufacture it on Twitter and these free places that offer out bets for free. One thing I also like to do is try to go with the mentality of like teach a man to fish, where I have a write-up with every single bet and play that I post on our Discord, where I'm showing you the steps and the reasons and the backing behind why I'm selecting these. I'm not choosing Devondre Campbell under tackles because I'm a Seahawks guy and I say, screw the 49ers. It's data-backed. There's reasons. I try to provide as much information so that you can take that information and apply it to future games, future matchups, future weeks where it's helpful for you. So maybe you're not comfortable with tackles and assists. That's fine. We can pivot to any kind of category, to be honest. And the same reasoning and information and research is all done. It's I try to be transparent with my betting because I think not enough people are in this betting space, and I give you all the reasons why. So hopefully that you guys are able to find the reasoning. A, it's logical. B, it makes sense in terms of what I'm saying and how I'm expecting the game script to unfold and how the play calling to unfold and volume and everything to unfold. But yeah, it's a great question because I don't think. Well, let me rephrase. I think we have people that are randomly joining mobile sports betting and able to do it at their fingertips. Every day, new people are signing up.
Yep.
More and more states are allowing it. Not everybody's used to going into a casino and placing a bet on these kinds of plays and wagers. So maybe if you're uncomfortable with what I'm saying, maybe you just play for $5 or $1 or whatever. You don't need to spend $1,000 per player prop to have a good season or to have something to root for. So play within your means and play responsibly.
Yeah, Tyler, and I saw it again. This morning he posted something like, it's a paragraph. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's the same thing I do for baseball too. It's the same thing Justin Fensterman does for basketball. Like, we're not just saying play. Here's the play. Here's the bet. Here's the pick. Here's why. And Tyler does a great job about that. And remember, right now we've got that deal at fantasyguru.com. If you want to read all the stuff that Tyler's talking about, right? You want to see the explanations, all that. fantasyguru.com. Subscribe at the top right corner of the page. You get the DFS and the wagering. Buy one, get one free. Right now. You got a couple more days left. I'm hearing it's over on Sunday. So get it right now. Get the DFS and the wagering for one price and get all this information that Tyler's talking about. Tyler, we've got a few comments here in the chat room. Let's go to that. Austin, I see you left a bunch of questions here. Just so you know, Austin, we don't rate teams on this show. That's not what we do here. We'll answer start them, sit them kind of questions. If you want to have your team broken down, what do we think? Hit Tyler or me up in Discord over at fantasyguru.com. Happy to help you out over there. Austin does have a question about this week, though. Do we go with Tank Bigsby or Chase Brown this week? Moss has got the ankle issue. Etienne's got the shoulder issue. They're both expected to play at this point, but both their backups are getting some heat at this point of the week. Bigsby or Chase Brown?
Moss seems the lesser likely player to play at this point. Again, we don't need to make this decision now on Thursday. We don't even have Thursday injury reports or Friday. Pardon me. Right now I'm leaning Chase Brown. I think Bengals Giants Sunday Night Football is a really, really fun and interesting game where there's a lot of shootout potential on both sides, where Bengals defense, absolute sieve. We saw the Ravens put up points galore against them. Giants, I expect Burrow to be able to put up a lot of success against this team, just based on their coverage schemes and how Burrow and Chase specifically do against their type of coverage. I would go Chase Brown here, and I would just keep an eye on the Jacksonville situation.
Matt B, that's Bigsby again. Bigsby, Kirk, or Dowdle in a start one flex position. Kirk to me is like, if you're starting three wide receivers and you got three better than Kirk, I think you got a pretty good team. I think he's somebody that we should feel pretty confident in starting on a weekly basis. Dowdle seemingly took over the backfield last week, and then Bigsby, who you just discussed. So at this point of the week, it's early, but at this point of the week, which of the three?
Well, I'm not playing Dowdle. He's going against the Detroit Lions off the bye, where I'm expecting them to just shut down the run game. Everyone aside from Kenneth Walker cannot run against that unit. I'd actually probably go Bigsby here, but I'd wait until we get final reports. I just don't view it as a great matchup against Kirk against this Bear secondary. That the way that they play schematically, it doesn't line up for a Kirk game. I think the Jacksonville offense takes a step backwards from what we saw last week against the Colts, defense that they actually schemed really well against.
Sammy H says, can we ask a trade question? Yes, of course you can, Sammy. Aaron said the following, and we talked about this, and we DK Metcalf or Deebo Samuel, you hate them both tonight. I'm putting words in your mouth. But if you had to start one, and I don't know why it's one, but if you had to start one, which of these two would you start? I don't think I directly asked you that earlier.
That's a great question. I would probably play DK in the anticipation that they're in catch-up mode, and we're just seeing that the Seahawks team loves to throw the ball. That would be my primary reason. And Charvarius Ward, good corner. Other side, Yadam. I think he's the guy we want to target.
Aaron Ross has got a question at the quarterback position. Jordan Love, who throws 2 touchdowns every week, and then had the Will Levis chuck for the pick 6 last week that was just such a horrible decision. Or Daniel Jones, who has played better, but at this point of the week, we're not certain whether Malik Nabers is going to be back or not.
Right. That's a huge thing, and that will be the determining factor, I think. With Nabers, I would not mind going Jones here, to be honest. Again, I think the Bengals defense, when we look at the season come January or February, I would not be shocked if the Bengals were bottom 32nd of 32nd in terms of yardage and points allowed. I think this unit is tail spinning, and I think they're set up for disaster, where even the Giants, who looked great against the Seahawks last week, they proved that defense to be a bit fraudulent. I think we see Jones put up a big game if he has Nabers. If not, I also like the matchup for Jordan Love against the Arizona Cardinals. That should be a good volume game in terms of shootout as well. I think either way, you've got 2 top 8 quarterbacks here. I think it should really come down to whether or not Nabers plays, and that'll be your deciding factor.
Aaron P. asked Deebo or DK. We just answered that, DK, according to Tyler. How about this one from David P? Cortland Sutton, Jalen Tolbert. Would you play either one? And would you drop either one for Juju for next week? Thanks, Ray. Good show. That's an interesting one because a lot of people obviously added Juju after the game. They didn't add him before the game. We told them to. They waited till he went for 7 for 130. Then they add him. Now he's on a bye. So, he's apparently still on waivers in some leagues, I guess, like in this one too. Is Juju's outlook good enough compared to these other 2 guys that you would drop either one of them? And that, I guess, would answer the question of who we're starting this week as Juju's out.
So I've gotten a lot of questions, Juju versus Sutton.
Yep.
And I keep answering the question of, do you want the guy tethered to Mahomes or the guy tethered to Bo Nix? And that's how I'm answering that question. Okay. I think Tolbert is a strong start this week, like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. The Lions play a lot of man coverage. Tolbert on the outside, 10 targets last week. Provided he's healthy, I think he's in line for a good game here and what should be a shootout.
David has a follow-up question. I can only carry 5 running backs: David Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor, Kareem Hunt, J.K. Dobbins, Zach Moss. Sounds like a good 5-some to me. Would you drop anybody for Vidal or Eckler? No, I wouldn't, but that's me. Vidal. I talked earlier about Vidal potentially, because Edwards got the ankle issue because of the concerns with Dobbins. I still believe, and I said this since 4 months ago, I love Vidal as a stash, but if you can only carry 5 running backs and all 5 of your running backs are top 30 guys, you can't be dropping any of those guys to add Vidal.
You're also in a tough spot. You've got Taylor injured, Kareem Hunt on bye, Zach Moss injured. Yep. So you're down to Montgomery and Dobbins.
Yep. I
would keep what you have right now because you don't really have the luxury of shuffling these question mark backs in terms of Vidal or CEH. I'd keep what you got.
Cap for Life asked a question. I talked about Adonai Mitchell is probably the guy gaining here with Pittman's health concerns, especially with Downs with the toe issue too this week. Is Mitchell someone that you're interested in? I mean, because I mentioned earlier, Alec Pierce is what he is, but he's just a fly route kind of guy. Mitchell seems to be the guy that could get some run here if Downs and or Pittman miss substantial time.
Yeah, I was higher on Mitchell pre-draft process, and then he had a pretty slow speed score in terms of weight adjusted 40. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting. When I look at this offense, it really comes down to which quarterback we've got here. It's super different with Anthony Richardson versus Joe Flacco. Flacco's thrown it 40 plus times a game whenever he's out there. With Anthony Richardson, we're hoping to get 10 completions. So it's very, very different in terms of what to expect. At this time, they're not clarifying who's starting this week, and for that reason, I don't really have a strong take here on any of these Colts wideouts. Josh Downs would be the one guy I'd want to pick up no matter what. Mm-hmm. But as far as Mitchell versus Pierce, I'd rather have Mitchell for the draft capital. Mm-hmm. I just don't have any certainty in wanting to start him in terms of a start-sit format. And when I have that hurdle, it makes it really tough to pick those types of players up for me.
That's something Jeff Mann says all the time too, folks. Even though I know everyone wants to change their lineup on a weekly basis. Eric S. says, sorry you missed some of the show, Eric. Appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words to both of us. Thank you. Eric's one of the longtime followers at FG. We really appreciate him. We got a question here from June Lee saying, someone offered me CeeDee Lamb for A.J. Brown and Kenneth Walker. I'm new to fantasy. Is it worth it? On the surface, okay, I get it. But A.J. Brown to me is a wide receiver 1. Walker's an every week running back. I'm not taking CeeDee Lamb for that duo. I want that duo.
No, I want the A.J. Brown, Kenneth Walker side for sure. I think I misread the question, so thank you for clarifying. Okay. Give me A.J. Brown and Walker.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb, by the way, are things going to get better there? I mean, the guy's averaging 7 for 100 or 8 for 100 last year, and Now it's like 5 for 70 every week.
It starts this week against the Lions. I think we're going to see a big week from him.
All right.
Please ignore the Cowboys emblem behind me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm got the Cowboys.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. We're all in on CD Land this week.
It's both of us. Michael asked, in a completion league, point per completion, Purdy or Dalton? What do you think?
Ooh.
You're going to say Purdy straight up if we're talking, but with the completion piece, Purdy or Dalton?
I'm going to go with Dalton. He's got the Falcons this week, who would they allow? Baker got I think it was 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
180 and 3 or something. Yeah.
Something like that.
Carved him up in the early part of the game.
Yeah, very, very efficient outing. I would go with Dalton here. He had a tough matchup last week against the Bears. That was pretty predictable. That's a really good defense. I'm not putting Atlanta up there with that unit.
Final question. This one's from Senor Rojo. Should we be picking up any of the Patriots wide receivers now that they've made the switch to May under center? What do you think?
I am super high on Jalen Polk, who has seen his snap share and route share climb each progressive week. 100% last week. That's what I love to see. Also, 20% target share back-to-back outings. The problem with Jacoby Brissett versus Drake May, one quarterback likes to play it conservatively. The other one likes to play it like their hair's on fire. Drake May is going to be running around, making crazy plays, probably a few turnovers, but also be throwing it deep down the field. He's going to give his wideouts a chance to actually put up ceiling performances. We're not going to get the 5 catches for 20 yards from Pop Douglas. We're going to get some actual vertical elements of this game. The problem is this offensive line is beat to smithereens. They are so banged up right now where I think there's going to be a lot of fail plays, a lot of 3-and-outs, maybe some fumbles and sacks. But there's also going to be some opportunities where we see Drake May put on his hero cape and run for a 25-yard scamper. I think you can be bullish on the wideouts without having to play them this week. I picked up Polk in a 16-team league where you're sitting out there, but I don't know if I would be starting him in most traditional 12 or 10-team leagues. If you want to pick one up, I think they're a fine speculative stash. And this offense, I think, is going to look night and day different with May versus Brissett. We
talked about Polk on Monday here on the show, and it talked about the 100% participation rate that Tyler mentioned. Yes. I added him myself in 2 leagues this week. One of them a deep 12-team league, the other one a 14-team. So I'm in agreement. We'll see how it plays out. I'm not starting him in either format either. I agree with Tyler there. Tyler's on with us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Tyler, I mentioned earlier, you're involved with the DFS, you're involved with the wagering. Talk us through the next couple of days here. I know you're super busy.
Yeah, crazy content schedule. I've got the DFS wide receiver coach article coming out this afternoon. We've got Thursday Night Football going on, so I'll be in Discord answering any kind of questions about that. Friday, I've got I don't do the betting show anymore, so that's been a nice reprieve for my time schedule. But I do have the DFS Core 4 live stream that comes on at 7 p.m. Eastern each night, where we go through the slate, me and a guest each week. Really, really fun. We've had some pretty good winners over the last few weeks. Saturday, we've got the game script article coming out, where I go game by game, breaking down pace of play, matchups, play volume, all those kinds of things, and how they all come together in terms of what to expect from your fantasy players. Then Sunday, we've got the start sit Q&A, 90 minutes prior to kickoff at 1 p.m. Eastern. So feel free to join us then. It's a chaotic chat room, but I think we get to most of the questions there. But feel free to join us there. That's a lot of fun.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Tyler, thanks for all the great work. Thanks for helping us answer all the questions today that I had, that the listeners had, and all that. And we will talk to you a week from now on this show. And as you've just laid out, everyone will be seeing you the rest of the week at fantasyguru.com, just like they will throughout the rest of the season. Appreciate your time today, buddy.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Ray.
You got it. That's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. We're a little bit over here, so we're going to shut the sucker down. We'll be back tomorrow on Friday. It's me solo. Russell Clay's usually with us Fridays, but he's not going to be available tomorrow. He'll return next week. So an hour of Ray tomorrow over here, handling things for you at Fantasy Sports Daily. For Tyler Beaker, I am Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Good luck tonight, folks.